Good evening, trustees, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about the equity and inclusive education policy under your direction. This important policy informs several administrative procedures, including the gender identity and gender expression AP that is being shared tonight. As the executive director of a nonprofit that deals with youth post-pandemic, I know that bureaucratic offices that operate using any of the terms diversity, equity, or inclusion are facing intense scrutiny right now. The workplace harassment of Richard Bilsko during DEI trainings and his subsequent suicide, the anti-Semitism inherent in DEI work exposed at the U.S. congressional hearing for Harvard University are but two recent examples of many. A meta-analysis released last week by Wilfrid Laurier Professor David Haskell cited numerous studies proving that diversity, equity, and inclusion instruction lead to greater prejudice and even harm. Specifically, programs rooted in identity-driven critical theory like critical race theory, queer theory, or critical post-colonial theory, all of which you practice here at the HDSB, have been shown to sow division, resentment, and create instability. Teaching the intersectional neo-Marxist oppressor-oppressed worldview as a means to create positive behavioral change is not supported by empirical evidence. Your equity and inclusion policy specifically directs administrators to promote a positive school climate. Given what we now know about initiatives marketed as DEI, this warrants a review of any and all practices, policies, or APs that fail to meet that objective. In addition, your equity and inclusion policy appears to be generating APs with elements that directly contradict your own stated policy. Firstly, the policy repeatedly specifies that schools and families are partners in education and that the HDSB is committed to maintaining collaborative relationships with parents and guardians. This is inclusion. My concern is APs that specifically endorse the exclusion of parents for children of any age by limiting the information that they may have about their own child. This is a violation of your own policy. Second, the policy uses the word gender to describe the distinction in the human species between male and female, a material category at the foundation of human sexual reproduction and procreation. Here, the word gender is used as a synonym for biological sex. My concern is when this word passes through to the AP level, the words gender and sex are then separated and treated as distinct entities. Biological, sex-based identities are then actively discriminated against as it pertains to the use of private spaces and sports teams. This has serious consequences to the physical and mental well-being of many students, and again, is a violation of your own policy. Sex is a protected ground in the Ontario Human Rights Code and has existed as a protected ground for decades. As such, it should be referenced and addressed in all of your policies and administrative procedures. When can we expect to see an administrative procedure articulating the needs and rights of biological sex identities and expression in schools? Third, the policy clearly affirms every individual's right to follow or not to follow religious and/or creed beliefs and practices. My concern is any AP that compels adherence to a particular set of beliefs which may or may not be held by a given individual. This potentially violates not only your policy, but the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms referenced in the document. Lastly, the policy notes the link between equity and inclusion and the mental health and well-being of students. This is a serious matter and one that should be held in the highest regard and treated with the utmost care. Therefore, an AP must not prioritize the needs of one protected category at the complete and utter expense of another protected category. We already know that this is leading to harms for girls and women. What criteria and safeguards are in place to validate when and how we should prioritize one protected category over another based on empirical evidence in the school environment? Trustees, when your equity and inclusion policy is used to generate administrative procedures by unelected DEI proponents that contradict the aims and prescribed goals of said policy, then you have an obligation to insist that they be scrutinized, amended, and/or removed. Key stakeholders, namely parents, want to feel confident that the HDSB operational practices accurately reflect and align with the policy intention and guidelines that trustees are charged with monitoring. Trustees, please do that work. Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much for your delegation this evening. Are there any questions for our delegate? Yeah, just a second. There it is. Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. I wonder if a transcript of your presentation has been made available to the board?
I will, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want the Aristotle Foundation for Public Policy document as well, so you can see all of the studies and research papers that have appeared in the academic journals?
At this point, you're allowed to answer questions, but not ask additional questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
but
I would be happy for you to forward any information that you have along with your delegation. I see no other. Trustee Rocha.
Yes, thank you for your delegation. My question is to the director and perhaps anyone on the senior administrative team.
I'm sorry, we don't make questions to staff during delegation time. Those questions come during the debate of the actual item, as per our procedure.
I will ask later.
Are there any other questions of the delegate? Seeing none, we thank you very much for presenting this information this evening.
Thank you.